Hey, if you want to be a successful coach this year, you're going to have to probably do things a little bit different than you have in the past. The coaching industry has changed a lot in the last few years. You've probably seen it's become easier than ever for people to start businesses. Anybody can start an LLC or say that they're a coach or go get a certification somewhere and have a slip of paper that says they're awesome. But because it's become so easy for people to get started with coaching businesses, there's a lot of noise in the market. And people are getting smarter. They're starting to know what to look for and how to figure out who is a good fit, who's perfectly aligned for them to be their coach. And so, if you want to start or grow a successful coaching business, you're going to have to do things a little bit differently. Now, most people think that if you're a coach, your job is to tell people what to do. Like you think back, maybe if you were in sports in high school, I had coaches and they would tell me what to do. They would tell me the plays that we're going to run and they kind of drive the ship. But in reality, when you are let's say, a business coach or a health coach or a life coach, or you do some other type of coaching, your job is not to tell people what to do. And that's what most people think, is that they've got to direct them and tell them every little step along the way. But if you want to stand out this year as a coach, you're going to have to do something radically different from that. Now, let me tell you a quick story. Um, there's two things that you have to have done, at least one of them, in order to even be a coach worth following or listening to. The first one is either you have to have gotten whatever result that you're promising, you have to have gotten it yourself, or you've had to at least help somebody else get it. Now, a few years back, I had hired a coach, and at the time, I didn't know this, but he was actually a consultant. He wasn't really a coach, and I paid him $10,000 to help us figure out this problem that we had when my wife and I were running our gym, and he gave us all sorts of really great tools. And basically, he provided this whole system for us to be able to run our business and grow it. And at the time, I was so excited. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what we need. And we got started implementing it. And in the first month, it blew my mind. We made our $10,000 back and then some. Now, you'd probably think, you invest five figures in 1 month and make it back in the same month, like you're going to be ecstatic. But we absolutely hated it. And the reason for that is the way this coach, who was really a consultant, the way he told us to do business was completely out of alignment with who we were, like our values, how we want to do things. And so after um, hiring him, getting all the systems and everything that he promised, we fired him. Even though we made our money back, we knew that it was the wrong move for us. And so it kind of, you've probably heard this quote: if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, right? He gave us this system and it fed us for that month. But in order to actually do anything other than that and become better business owners or better marketers or whatever, we had to continue coming back to him. So you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, then you feed him for a lifetime. And that's your job as a coach, is to teach people, right? You're not telling them what to do so they become reliant on you. You're helping them become self-reliant so they can do it themselves. And one of the things that I really love to look at, one of the people that I love to look at, you wouldn't probably think of them as a coach because that term is it does not meet the actual like definition of who this person is. He's so much more than a coach. But the person who comes to mind for me is Jesus Christ, right? So if you think of him as a coach, like he's leading people, he's helping people, he had this mindset that was different from a lot of coaches nowadays. And that is, he wants to make people better and help them do even greater things than he did. Now, if you know Jesus, if you heard the stories, he did some really crazy stuff, right? Like he helped people who were blind be able to see. He healed people and helped people who couldn't walk. He raised people from the dead. He casted out demons. He did all of these amazing miracles. And if you've never heard the story, a short while before he was going to die and then miraculously come back to life, he was having a conversation with his disciples. They think they were his students, right? Just like you've got clients or students. The disciples were Jesus's students. And he was having a conversation with them shortly before he was going to die. And he said, "Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these." And so when you think about that, all the things I just said that he did that were these amazing miracles that nobody had ever done before, and then he told his students, "You're going to do things just like this and even greater." That would be mind blowing at the time. And I'm not saying that any of Jesus's disciples were better than him or greater than him. The reason that they were able to do those things was because he sent the Holy Spirit and they worked through him. But what I'm getting at here is the mindset that he had. He had these students, these disciples that he was building up to become better, to do things that were even greater than he had done. And so he had this mindset as a leader, as a coach, as a mentor, whatever you want to call him, to build people up in such a way that they wouldn't be self-reliant, or they wouldn't be reliant on him. They would be self-reliant, right? And that they would go out and they would do even better things. He wasn't trying to put a cover on them or, keep them lower than him. He was a servant, right? So if you want to be a standout coach, you can't just be a coach. You have to be a mentor. And there's a series of different aspects of relationships that you have to work through with your clients in order to do that. There's different hats that you have to wear in order to do that. And so the first one, I think of it as a cultivator. So it's kind of like the foundational stage where you're creating this environment for your clients or your students it's safe. It's nurturing. It fosters belief and really starts to build that trust and relationship with you. I kind of think of it as of a parent to a baby. I've got some small children right now, and early on, you've got to do everything for them. You got to create this safe environment. You got to build trust. You got to help them to just learn how the world works and really build that confidence within your relationship. And so that's one of the hats that you have to wear as a coach. Now, the second stage or phase or hat is as a consultant. And so this stage is really where you as a coach, you're telling your clients exactly what they need to do and how to do it. You're giving those specific tools and strategies, just like that coach that I hired did. That's the role of a consultant. So you're giving, as a parent, maybe this is your toddler stage, right? You're giving your kids very specific instructions, telling them exactly how to do everything. And so as a coach, you're giving that structure, you're giving those answers, you're giving the expertise for your client to follow. And that's kind of that stage of growing. Now, sometimes you'll get questions where that's what people are looking for. They're looking for the exact answer, right? That's what most coaches think you need to do all the time. But that's not the case. And actually, a coach, that's really kind of like a completely separate hat. It's a completely different hat. That's more used when the basics are understood. People know the foundational principles of what they're doing. And so then as a coach, your job is actually to guide them to find their own answers. Really, it's to empower them to be able to make their own decisions and to trust their instincts. So going back to the parenting analogy, it's kind of like if your kid's riding the bike and they're to the point where, they know how to pedal, they know how to slow down, that kind of thing. Now we're going to take the training wheels off, right? And we're going to encourage them to get out there to practice, to try new things, to solve problems on their own. And the whole time we're there, right? We're not letting them fall over and fall off the bike. We're kind of guiding them and helping them figure it out on their own while offering that same safety and security. So as a coach, you're asking questions, you're giving accountability, right? You're helping them do the things that they want to do and be able to grow into, and really just helping them unlock their potential and empower them. Now, the fourth one is really, this is the area where this year in particular, because the industry has such low barriers to entry, you're seeing coaches join left and right, which is a great thing, but it's making it harder to rise to the top if you're a good coach. This next stage or hat is going to be one of the most important, and that's as a mentor. A mentor is a trusted advisor, right? It's someone who shares their experiences. If I ask you a question, you're telling me, well, this is what I would do, or this is what I've done in the past. You're sharing those experiences. As a parent, maybe this is like the upper teens or into adulthood where really like you're modeling behaviors, you're showing people how to, showing your teenager how to navigate as an adult so that they can learn by your example and go and do it themselves. And so as a coach, maybe that's providing inspiration, giving personal insight, or sharing your experiences, and really building that deeper relationship to where it's not just a monologue, it's a dialogue, right? And then the last phase or hat that you wear is the champion. And this is where every coach should want to get. Going back to the story about Jesus, where he sent his disciples off, saying, you're going to do even greater things than I have. That's where you're cheering people on, right? They're no longer reliant on you in order to go and take action, right? They've kind of got the basics down. They've learned, they've gained insight from your experiences and things like that. And now you're watching them go. You're cheering them on. You're celebrating their wins. You're advocating for them and offering encouragement as needed. When you think of the modern day coach, they're not just a coach. They're a coach and a cultivator. They're a consultant. They're a mentor. They're a champion. They're doing all these things. And in this market right now, if you want to grow a successful coaching business, you've got to be able to do all those things. Here's a quick story about what that actually looks like and the impact that it can make. A short while back, I was working with an ad agency in the high ticket space, and I gave them one piece of advice during a short call that we had. And that one piece of advice, I kind of helped guide them to be able to make the decision on whether or not they wanted to pursue this. It was an idea that I shared with them from my experience. I said, you should maybe explore this idea, and helped kind of guide them to make that decision. And that one piece of advice, it helped them do something they had never done before. Previously, they had always hit the ceiling. They would get up to 20 clients and then they drop back down. They'd get up to 20, maybe a little bit over, and then they drop back down. But they could never really nail what it looks like and what they need to do to get above that 20 and way above it and stay there. And when they implemented that one piece of advice, they went from 20 clients to 40 clients in just 2 months. Now, to give you a perspective on what impact did that actually have, well, this ad agency, they had a 4-month contract for their clients, and it was $5,000 a month. So every client they got was a minimum of $20,000 of added revenue. Well, in those 2 months, they went from 20 to 40. So they got 20 new clients at $20,000 a pop. That one piece of advice helped them generate $400,000 in 2 months. And that the only way I could have provided them that advice was by switching hats and knowing where they were at, the type of questions they were asking, and how to be able to communicate them in a way that would encourage them to take the action that they thought and knew was right for them. I didn't tell them what to do. I helped facilitate that decision-making process. So if you want to be a coach that rises to the top, the cream of the crop in 2025, then what you really need to have done is gotten the result for yourself or someone else. You need to be able to switch from one hat to another to meet the demands of whatever situation you're going through. And most importantly, you have to work with this mindset that you want your clients to be more successful than yourself. And just as the last thing I'll leave you with, a pro tip: if you're ever looking for a coach to help you grow your business or do something else, make sure that you look for these same exact qualities in a coach for yourself. Somebody who's gotten the result for themselves or someone else, someone who's got the ability to switch from these different hats, from a cultivator to a coach to a consultant to a mentor to a champion, and someone that you can trust in, someone who wants you to be more successful than yourself. If you can find a person like that as your coach, you have struck gold. So here's to making this year your best coaching year ever.